inception of interaction with the community began when I was an undergraduate student. I was a senior at University of Maryland, and I was a part of this class called Tropical Ecology. And during spring break, we studied abroad in Belize. And so we traveled all over Belize, learning about tropical ecology, learning about the landscape of Belize, different wildlife and biodiversity that's there. And we spent most of our time in City River because there was so much biodiversity that was there. So Belize is a very diverse population. You have Creole, you have British people, mestizos, Mayans, Garifunas. And so when I got to City River, Belize, it was my first time interacting with Creole people. And so they were people that looked like me. They were African descent and British descent. And so we spent a lot of time talking with each other and saying like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from the US.
Belize, it was super welcoming. Like for about a day or two, I felt very, very comfortable kind of interacting with everyone, and everyone was really receptive of the ideas that we had as a group. And I was really interested to kind of hear their ideas that they had for their community.
People that were really great, they were really friendly and just had a great energy about them. The way they embraced like Shakira, who, been there a few times, and they embraced us, who they had no idea who we were, like we were family. So I really appreciated that. And it was like a great feeling to have that type of welcoming when we came there.
Also, the people are very, very proud of their culture and their country, which was really cool to see and to just learn more about the culture through them, and just seeing how much they celebrate it and celebrate who they are.
One of the women who were cooking our breakfast, lunch, and dinners, we became friends later on Facebook. And she was like, hey, I see you're going to grad school for sustainability. We value sustainability in our village. Come back and work on a project with us. So I was like, okay, if I can find some funding, I'll come back. So Evan Morton and I were students at Arizona State University in sustainable engineering, and we were both NSF IGERT students. So it's this competitive funding through the NSF, and it funded our tuition and gave us a nice stipend. After working on that project, many community members were coming up to us saying, what do we call you all? What are you girls? And we're like, we're just researchers. And then we thought about that a little bit more, and we're like, wow, our experiences has been great. Like we felt really empowered to do our jobs as engineers. We felt like for the first time, we had the autonomy to just be in this creative space where anything was possible. And so we thought, what if we brought the experience to other women of color that are in the STEM field? So when we were brainstorming names, we were asking community members, what do you think our name should be? And one of the community members, Ava, she was like, how about BioGals? And we were like, oh yeah, BioGals, because the anaerobic digester produces BioGals. And so that's how BioGals became BioGals.
So the biggest problem that BioGals was there in Belize to work on was the way that waste is managed in Belize. So in most communities in Belize, especially rural ones, they don't have access to landfills like we do here in the States. Usually, especially in the rural communities, it's an open dump site. Often they're not lined, which means that contaminants, potentially hazardous contaminants from the waste that's getting dumped there, might end up in the soil. It could even end up in the groundwater. Also, there's a lot of burning of waste, which, as you can imagine, causes problems with air pollution and can be really dangerous to inhale. And also, as waste is being degraded in that open environment, it produces a lot of greenhouse gases as the waste is degrading over time. So that was a problem that we saw and we were trying to address. And so the anaerobic digester system was a solution to address part of that problem. So it converts organic waste to methane, but instead of having it just be released as a greenhouse gas, that methane is captured and can be used as renewable energy.
So with the community members, we identified anaerobic digester as being a technology that could reduce the amount of waste that's going into the environment, and we can recover some of that energy and use it to cook school lunches.
The first part of the digester that's really important is just making sure that you have the right materials to go into the digester. So before you build, you want to make sure that you have everything that you would need to start the process of building the gases in the digester. So those main things are going to be your scrap foods. That's going to be the food for the microbes, and then the microbes, which can come from a various different locations, but most of the time it's just like manure. So making sure that you had a steady supply of that in the area or it wasn't going to work.
I think I kind of was coming in with, I think, an uninformed idea of what working in a developing country was going to be like, or what a lot of the world might consider a developing country. I think here in the US, especially as a college student, I was often exposed to kind of the narrative that these places are really struggling and they really need our help. What can we do for them? And I think, while in many ways I think that's true, I don't think it really prepared me for what it was going to actually be like working in a place like Belize. I remember being, I wouldn't say surprised, but I just wasn't expecting people to be so welcoming to me, and joyful and friendly. I mean, like, I was welcomed into so many homes. They were happy to make us a plate of home-cooked food, tell us stories, share gossip or whatever. And there was really a sense of pride in their home, in the place they grew up, in the community they live in. And I'm still kind of processing that and trying to figure out how that really shifted my perspective. But I know that I no longer kind of view working in Belize as something that like makes me a good person. It's more, I think, an exchange. I get to bring the things that I learned during my time at university, bring my skills, and in turn I get to learn from their school skills and their knowledge, which is also equally as valuable, and share in their culture as well. And it was, I think, a really valuable experience for both parties, definitely for me.
Out of my comfort zone, not necessarily doing what's the easiest thing, but sometimes doing what's uncomfortable, because that's where, a lot of growth happens. And also, I kind of learned that throughout life that we're like products of our environment. So like, if you really want to take control of your life, you got to take control of your environment. So I've been able to empower myself by actually doing that.
Currently, I work as a consultant engineer, and I'm not sure that I would have had the confidence to go for that type of job if it wasn't for BioGals. So just being able to actually like work with different people, even if you're not really sure kind of what their preconceived notions are or what they might have as a solution for something, and just being able to be receptive to that and be able to respond technically is something I completely gained from BioGals. Like, I don't know if I'd have that ability or feel comfortable doing that without BioGals and a trip to Belize. So
I think the main problem that I myself experienced and that I'm seeing other women of color experience is that we still are either the only one that looks like us in our engineering classes or one of very few. And just that alone makes it very hard to want to continue. When you're the only person that looks like you kind of just have this thought that, well, maybe I'm just not supposed to be here. If nobody else that looks like me is here, then it makes you feel like something is wrong. And so first, just that's a main problem. And through that, then you kind of feel like, well, maybe I should just be studying something else. Maybe my presence doesn't matter in this area. And it can just be very defeating. And so I think through BioGals, we're hoping to help fix that problem by encouraging more women of color to go into the STEM field so that you don't have to be the only one in the future. But also, while we are still increasing the number of women of color in STEM, which is going to take several years to start to actually see that growth, we also need to provide a space for the women of color that are there now to create that belonging amongst themselves when they are the only one. And we're hoping to do that through our trips to Belize and to other places in the future, creating this space where they can come and learn how to incorporate societal aspects into their research, learn how their identity as a woman of color can affect the work that they do in a positive way, that their diverse outlook on the world can add a positive aspect to their engineering work and to the communities that we work with. And also something that we've learned with working in Belize that I hope we can do more research on is seeing that our impact as women of color doesn't make a difference that when we are working in communities of color with the people in Belize, does it make a difference that we are also people of color? And I think it does. I think we can't fully prove that, and we're hoping to do more research in the aspect, but just the general feelings of building trust with other people of color, I think that comes a lot easier from the engineers that are also people of color. So building that type of community as well to show that we're not only helping technically, but we can also help in a more societal way.